Hello, sunshine. Good morning. Our opening words are by Shari Woodbury. Welcome all who seek renewal in this weary world. Welcome all who come with love and energy to share. Welcome to those who worry for our future. Welcome each one who is grateful for today. Know that in this place you are not alone. In community, we share our strength with one another, and we keep the flame of love burning bright. Know that in this place, responsibility is shared. Here, tradition holds us. Ancestors shine a light from the past. Here, the young lift their bright faces, and beckon us onward. Take my hand, and we can go on together. We light this chalice in celebration of new beginnings, hope, and the ongoing process of renewal and transformation. Our opening hymn is number 103 in our cloth hymnals. 301. I've always transposed things. So 301 in our cloth hymnals. Touch the earth, reach the sky. Please stand in body or spirit.
Welcome to First Parish in Bedford, a Unitarian Universalist congregation where we come together every week as a people with diverse beliefs and a shared commitment to bring more peace, more joy, more love, and more justice into this world. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whether you worship one God, many gods, or no God, you are welcome here. Happy Mother's Day to all who mother and have mothered, and heartfelt love to all who feel grief on this day. We also send our love over to those of our congregation who are at Ferry Beach, enjoying the weekend there, finally getting some sunshine, and having worship with our senior minister, Reverend Jamie. I also want to say a special welcome to all our visitors this morning, in person and on Zoom. Here in the sanctuary, you are invited to fill out a blue connection card, which you'll find at the end of the pews, and you can give it to one of the ushers during the collection of the offering. so we can add you to our mailing list. And in Zoom, you can use the link in the chat to fill out the form. Parents and caregivers of little ones, there is a nursery available downstairs for your convenience, and we are also always delighted to have little ones in our sanctuary. After the service, everyone is welcome to join us for coffee, tea, and fellowship in the common room across the way. Here are a couple of announcements. The plant fair is coming up. It's on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can still sign up to volunteer, and the sign-up genius can be found at uubedford.org on the little right-hand side where we have our upcoming events. And you can also just come to the plant fair, buy plants, buy baked goods, have a good time. Next Sunday, May 18th, there will be a climate cafe after worship. There is more information in your order of service about the special guest speaker that will be both in the Bacon Room and also on Zoom, so you can see those details. And now I invite you to rise in body or in spirit so we can recite together our unison affirmation that is in the order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en espíritu de amor, y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
Good morning. Oh, what to do with this now? I tied it around. This is what they used to do in the early 90s. Tied around like this. Oh, they still do it. Cool. Cool things never die. So sometimes we miss the most obvious things while caught up in our own little world, as we will see today in our story entitled Mother's Day. Mom seems sad, and I don't know why. Could it be that she found out about that one time I lied, and that I didn't finish all 6 of my chores, or that I kicked Grandpa that time that he snored, or that I still prefer her haircut from before? But, Mom gave me lunch. She gave me a smile, so it mustn't be too bad. Did she find out about the time I burned Rachel's dad? I promise it's not as bad as it sounds. I told him to catch a bunch of sparklers, and then he howled like a greyhound. But Mom still seems blue. If only there was something I could say. Maybe I'll pick her some flowers. It is early May. I remember last year when I picked them for, oh shoot, is it Mother's Day? Oh my gosh, this woman, she needs a massage. She needs diamonds and gold. She puts up with me. I'm a free-spirited soul. Let's get her balloons. Release a white dove. She needs to know of my admiration and my love. How could I forget? Now what will I do? I guess it's best to tell her the one thing that I know is true. Mom, you're the best, and I'll always love you. Signed, your little free-spirited soul. Now, children are, let's sing our children to class.
This is my own very personal reflection on renewal and transformation. Reflecting on my life, I recognized how deeply I have always been drawn to routine and predictability. As a child, I found the steady rhythm of the world around me, the changes of the season, the familiar return of the school year each fall, and the long-anticipated freedom of summer. These recurring patterns provided me a strong sense of security. Whether this tendency came from innate personality traits, the way I was raised, or more likely a combination of both, I clung to the stability that structure offered. This emotional safe zone provided a psychological anchor. It brought with it a sense of control and assurance in an otherwise unpredictable world. In hindsight, however, that desire for sameness often prevented growth. As time passed, I began to recognize that this comfort came at a cost. Clinging to the familiar, I often hesitated when faced with change. New opportunities, uncharted paths, and the chance to forge fresh relationships all seemed daunting because they forced me to leave my comfort zone. Neil Donald Walsh wrote, "Life begins at the end of your comfort zone." Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. I understood those words deeply. The very boundaries that made me feel safe also limited my potential to fully engage with the world around me. Now, in looking back in time, one experience stands out as profoundly transformative, an inflection point that not only offered renewal, but allowed me to reimagine the person I wished to become, perhaps the person I was meant to be. This pivotal change came when I decided to leave the Catholic seminary, a place that had been my sanctuary and my identity for 13 years, from my freshman year in college, 13 years old, through my graduate studies at major seminary when I was 22. Over time, my reasons for staying evolved. Initially grounded in a sense of calling, my commitment eventually gave way to deeper questioning and discernment. I came to a realization that was both unsettling and clarifying. I was, metaphorically speaking, in the right pew, but the wrong church. Yet I stayed. Why did I stay? Largely because it was the only life I'd ever known. There was comfort in the familiar, but it no longer felt authentic. Staying was safe, leaving was honest, but the unknown was scary. The moment I stepped away from that life, I felt an unexpected and overwhelming sense of freedom. When I arrived in Boston in 1970 as a conscientious objector, I was met not as Joe the seminarian or Joe the guy in the Roman collar, but simply as Joe. No title, no collar, no externally imposed expectations. For the first time, I began to discover who I was beneath the priestly facade and the external expectations associated with wearing that collar. I found that unlocking self, that I was stepping into a version of myself that felt truer, more expansive, and whole. Viktor Frankl once wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." That was the essence of my journey. Leaving the seminary was not just about walking away from a vocation. It was about stepping into a new life with intention. In doing so, I found that renewal, clarity, and freedom weren't just outcomes of change. They were the very tools I needed to move forward and embrace a cycle of continued personal growth and transformation.
I thought we would take a moment today to do a practice that I have led a few times here and many times in our small Vespers services that we do in the evening. So this may be familiar or it may be new. It's a body prayer, and by that I mean it is using gestures to convey a sense of our deepest hopes and our connection to others in the world. And so I'll show the gestures while giving a little bit of explanation, and then we'll do them together twice more in silence. The first is a gesture of gratitude and praise, because there is always something to be grateful for in this life. The second is a gesture of humility, remembering that we are only human, that we are not perfect. The third is a gesture of sending love out into the world to specific people or communities, or just to the world more generally. So many are hurting. And lastly, we pull that love back for ourselves, remembering that we deserve that love and care, that we are worthy. Amen.
The offering we take each Sunday isn't just a stale habit. It's an opportunity to renew our commitment to this place and to one another. Our offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to the values that we share.
the drum beats echoed in the crowded, dark cobblestone streets. And then the trumpets began to sound, eerily and not quite in a tune. The costumed figures, covered from head to toe in maroon, with just tiny eye holes to see, began moving down the street. In the distance, I could see the glass coffin coming, containing the mannequin body of Jesus. It was a somber moment, and the crowds were quiet. But just 15 or 20 minutes earlier, and just 3 or 4 blocks away, I had been in the middle of a vibrant street festival. People were buying churros and spiral-cut potatoes that had been deep-fried and covered in sauce. Children were playing with toys and putting on light-up flower crowns. Families were gathered together, laughing and talking. It was Viernes Santo, or Good Friday, in Guanajuato, Mexico. And it was an elaborate festival for Holy Week, or Semana Santa, that incorporated both more serious religious celebrations and more festive cultural celebrations, completely woven seamlessly together. It felt like an apt way for me to be ending my sabbatical time with this trip. I had not come for the Semana Santa festival. I had come for intensive Spanish lessons in a Spanish language school. And I had thought it would probably be interesting to be in Mexico for Holy Week, but I had not known I was coming to a town known for its local tourism during Semana Santa. The blend of somber and intense, looking at violence from the state and the story of Jesus' death, mixed with revelry and connection, also felt apt in the sense that, for me, 2025 had been, as the oft-quoted Dickens line says, the best of times and the worst of times. I was having a wonderful personal experience, having time off to learn and travel and go spend more time with loved ones, and also in the country and in the news and in the many signal groups I was in on my phone were increasingly horrifying reports of violence and repression. One of the things I liked about experiencing Semana Santa in this Mexican town was that combination of the grief with the joy. Because one of the things I've always thought interesting about the Christian Easter story is that there is a lot of excitement about Jesus' resurrection, which makes sense. Someone coming back to life would be quite notable. And also, he doesn't stay back. He's back a little bit, and then he goes up to heaven, and he's gone. The disciples don't get their friend back. They don't get their teacher back. They just get hope. I found a quote about renewal that I thought offered some similar concepts. I was looking around on the internet to create my small group ministry guide for May, and I stumbled upon a quote from an author I had never heard of before, and it came from what I discovered was a fantasy epic series that I had also never heard of before. But the quote stood out to me. It's by Daniel Abraham. "We say that flowers return every spring, but that is a lie. It is true that the world is renewed. It is also true that renewal comes at a price. For even if the flower grows from an ancient vine, the flowers of spring are themselves new to the world, untried and untested. The flower that wilted last year is gone. Petals once fallen are fallen forever. Flowers do not return in the spring, rather, they are replaced. It is in this difference between returned and replaced that the price of renewal is paid. And as it is for spring flowers, so it is for us. Now, in daily life, the price of renewal is often money, and it just requires the click of a button to have complete continuation. Hardly even a replacement, just, well, I can keep having my library book or my Netflix or my magazine or what have you. But in spiritual renewal, I think that there is a price. And that price is usually the discomfort of change and the grief of loss. As Joe so aptly described, change is uncomfortable, and it can feel unsafe, and it can open us up to beautiful things. And it can be a bit of a bummer to realize that in the flowers and the renewal and the springtime, there is still loss and grief. But the flip side is also true. Where there is grief and loss and change, there is also the possibility of renewal. I think it is hard to know in the moment what possibilities for renewal there are. I will say there was a point in my sabbatical in which I did not know if I was going to be experiencing renewal. There was a point at which I had realized that it wasn't so much that I needed to take things off my plate and then I would be able to catch up on things and get to some of those projects. It was that no matter what I had on my plate, I still somehow struggled to manage it all. I had thought that taking away my entire full-time job and a good chunk of my volunteer organizing would magically make me able to do a lot of other things. But it turns out that time isn't magic. It's just something that passes and has to be allocated realistically, which is not my strong suit. However, facing this, while very uncomfortable and bringing me some amount of despair in the moment, did make room for some new possibilities. In our congregation, too, we have experienced a fair bit of loss and change over the past few years. We've had beloved staff depart, whether through retirement or moving on, and we've had beloved congregants depart, whether to move away to another part of the country or because they have died. And it is hard to look out into the congregation and think of those who are not here. One of the harder parts of sabbatical was to come back knowing that I would not see Brown Pulliam in that pew. And it is also hard, especially as the minister of faith development, to see on a Sunday morning that oftentimes there are not very many little children going off to their religious development classes. Sometimes it is hard to know what kind of renewal is coming. And then there is our country, which is much more dire. It is very hard to see that there is any place for new flowers. It sort of feels like the ground is being poisoned and then paved over with concrete, literally and figuratively. But I will say that I do still see some dandelions pushing up through the cracks in the concrete. In this time, which has been horrific, I have also seen the most exciting immigration justice organizing in eastern Massachusetts that I have seen in my entire time here, which granted is only a decade, but still, I think it's remarkable. In January, I was fortunate to be part of a gathering where a wide variety of groups got together. And it wasn't just the groups that were well-staffed and had paid organizers. And it wasn't just the people who could speak English so that we could have the meeting in one language. And it wasn't just the Latino community and the Spanish speakers, It was also the Brazilian community and Portuguese speakers. It was also the Asian organization that focuses on Southeast Asian deportations. It was also the Muslim organization that focuses on things like the Muslim ban and surveillance, and now the targeting of those who do activism for Palestine. And it was not easy to get all these groups together. And it has not been easy as they've continued to organize together. Sometimes there are not just language barriers and cultural differences, but also differences in rhetoric. What one group might want to say that feels safe and protective might to another group feel like they're being thrown under the bus and cast out. But one of the principles of this particular gathering of groups is everything for everyone. Todos, todo para todos, which comes from the Zapatista movement. Everything for everyone. And so whenever there is a breach, they come back and say, wait, we need this rhetoric, we need this demand, we need this work to be as much as we can for everyone. And this group has started the Luce hotline, the ICE Watch hotline, which you may have heard about, and the rapid response networks that now show up when there is a sighting of ICE to provide support and witness. And they also provide legal resources for people who call and need them. So that is where I see the dandelions in the concrete. And it is much easier to be hopeful about this congregation. Here I can see that we have some fabulous new staff, that we have a senior minister who is calm and compassionate and very committed to ministering to all ages and being a welcoming community for many kinds of people. And we have a new director of faith development for children who is creative and energized, who's making films with the middle schoolers and thinking about how we can create more opportunities to bring in younger children, not just to have them here, but to offer something meaningful and inclusive. There's also the fact that we have incredible leaders in this congregation, that you all have been so persistent and flexible, that you keep on doing the work of this community. And even when I go to bed thinking, well, I'm going to have to say from the pulpit that we don't have anyone to clean up coffee hour, I find that there's an email at 2 a.m. from someone saying, I found somebody to clean up coffee hour. It's going to happen. And even when I come in and am told there's nobody to run the Zoom, I learn there is somebody to run the Zoom, and it's Chris. And in my own life, too, I have been experiencing this moment of renewal. Not just from the rest and the learning and the time with loved ones that I was so grateful to have, but also because I am letting the flowers of my expectations die and trying to figure out what kind of soil I'm actually working with here and how to grow the best flowers in it. It certainly is not going to be perfect, and more often than not, I will probably resonate with that kid in the Mother's Day story going, oh crap, what have I forgotten now? But I do find that with some new systems and some good work with my therapist and some new opportunities I'm pursuing, I'm figuring out some better ways to have a better relationship with time and realism. The new flowers are not going to be the old flowers, and that is true in this congregation too. It is very tempting to look back and think, oh, remember how that was, and that was so great, and it was so great. And not all of those things can happen again, though some of them have been brought back, like the plant fair. But I feel that our flowers that we are growing in this soil will be truly beautiful. And so whatever mix of grief and possibility you are experiencing, whether you are in a best of times, worst of times, or just a worst of times, worst of times, or just kind of regular times, you might be feeling a loss that needs time, where you can't yet conceive of the new flowers, and you just have to let some things compost for a while until there's enough to make the soil more fertile. You might need a garden party where some people come and help you get the soil ready, or just sit with you while you wait for the compost. Or you might be in a place where you're going to get in there and dig, and you're going to get out a pick to bash up that concrete, and you're going to plant some flowers. And that's good too. Because whatever mix we are in, there is possibility for renewal. It will require some letting go. It will require some discomfort. It will require some loss. And if we are already deep in the loss, then know that there is possibility there too. It is not some silver lining that makes it okay, but this is just how life is. It's the funeral procession and the street festival, blocks apart and minutes apart. It is the people coming together to celebrate and grieve. And it is worth it to see what new flowers we can grow. I invite you to join by rising in body or in spirit in our closing song. It's a little insert, and the words are teeny tiny on the page with the music, but if you flip it over, the words are slightly less teeny tiny. So take your pick if you want to read music or words. This is Life Calls Us On. Let us go on. Let us go on grieving what we have lost, allowing the discomfort of change, and honoring the possibility of renewal in its own time and in its own way, in whatever soil we are tending, calling out to others to help us with the tools we need. Let us keep going.